Welcome to the Relocated South African show for navigating immigration from South Africa for a better future. I'm your host, Jan Hugo from Lagos in Portugal. Check out our website, www.therelocatedSouthAfrican.com. It contains a whole lot of useful information and details of all episodes to date. If you want to interact with us or comment on our discussions, or even participate in an interview, please contact me on jan@therelocatedSouthAfrican.com. Also, if you like our content, why not subscribe on your favorite platform? Today I welcome from Hamilton in New Zealand, Abré Van Wyk. Welcome, Aubrey.
Thanks, Jan. Great for having me.
Awesome. So Aubrey describes himself on LinkedIn as not your typical CA. He's a cloud and tech fanatic, driven by grace, and the truth will set you free. What a great way to describe yourself. Aubrey's, of course, the host of Karookiwi, which is a podcast aimed at Safas living abroad. I will let Aubrey tell us a bit more about the podcast a little later. So like I do with all the guests on the podcast, I would like to ask you to just give us a bit of your history, where you're born, where did you grow up, go to school, a bit about your family, and how did you get to live in New Zealand today? So that's a whole lot of questions. I'll hand it over to you.
Okay. Thanks, Jan, for that intro. Yeah, so I was born in Kempton Park, Johannesburg, but we only lived there up to when I was 5. So then we moved to the Western Cape, a town called Worcester. I was there since, as I said, 5, attended school, grew up there. It's sort of a countryside town, much bigger now today than it was back then in 1990. I attended Worcester Gymnasium High School, which is one of the bigger local schools in town, and studied Stellenbosch and then UNISA, and made a turn in Pretoria for about 2 years, and then moved back to the Western Cape after that. In between, got married to Abré for 12 and a half years now. And then, for the past 10 years before we moved to New Zealand, we were back in the Worcester area. And then about a year ago, we made the move to Hamilton in New Zealand, which is the 3rd largest city in New Zealand, where we are today.
Okay, awesome. And you qualified as a CA. Did you work for one of the big firms in South Africa?
No, so I did my articles through a local smaller firm in Worcester. It's called, it's one of the BGR offices. Yeah, they got a few offices in the Cape area.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, can we explore the immigration decision a little bit more? What made you decide to leave South Africa?
So if you ask my wife, I always had this itch to move abroad. So we looked at various locations, and my eyes were set on the UAE, so Dubai, Dhabi, that areas. And I always knew sort of that I would get a job, but she would get one way easier. She's a teacher. They are wanted everywhere. So then things didn't happen that way to go to the UAE. And then, and beyond that, I said, we will never come to New Zealand. It's way too far. Because my sister and her family moved here about 7 years ago. And we came to visit them in 2023. And then my never say never moment happened. So I've seen what life could be like here, and how you could sort of settle and have a good life, and it's safe. And so I told my wife, this is the one. This is the overseas moment we're going to have, and the journey we're going on. And we made the decision to move. So that took us about a year, and with all the registrations and applications you have to do and stuff like that. Yeah, that was 2024, and we've been here a year now.
I mean, that's really interesting. Not everybody gets the opportunity to actually go and visit the place where they eventually end up.
No, we're fortunate, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big benefit. Does your sister also stay in Hamilton?
Yes.
Okay, so that's kind of led to the decision, because
the soft landing.
Yeah, that makes a huge amount of sense. And when you moved across, did you come across on your visa, your skill visa, or your wife's, or both?
Yeah, so no. Again, because she's a teacher, we were able to actually get a visa on her profile. So she got a job at first with a visa attached to it. And so I piggybacked on that to New Zealand. So for a CA, it's not that easy to actually get a in practice job, but I think we're going to get there in your questions. So yeah. So point being, it was my wife that with the teacher's qualification that led us here. Yeah,
Okay, well, that's really interesting. Hamilton, I mean, I don't know, the other cities,
yeah.
Auckland, I don't even know, is Hamilton on the
Wellington
South Island or North
is
Island?
north. Yeah, central North Island. Yeah, just about an hour and a half south from Auckland again. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And I noticed on social media that you spent the December holidays in South Africa.
yeah.
It's interesting that, not everybody gets that opportunity to go back so soon after leaving. So what was it like seeing friends and family again?
Yes, so they said you shouldn't go back within a year. Fortunately and unfortunately, we had return tickets booked when we came here, so we sort of had to go. And my sister and her family went to visit as well, so we said not going to stay here alone without them. No, it was brilliant, Jan. So yeah, just being a year away from everyone, it was great to see them back in South Africa. Not much has changed in the last year. Yeah, but it was good. It was refreshing, and I mean, I don't know when you last were in South Africa, but it's a good vibe.
Good. I haven't been
Yeah.
this is my 6th year out of the country. We haven't been back yet.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think for me it's changed. We left in
Yeah.
2020 just after COVID. So
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah. Yeah.
probably find it very different. But my kids live abroad, so it's easier for us to be based in Europe. So after the few weeks there, would you consider going back?
Yes. So again, if you ask my wife today, let's go back tomorrow, she'll say yes. So, but we have a sort of a plan why we came here and what we want to achieve, and then we'll see what goes from there. But yeah, our plan was always to sort of go back, and we have a 5 to 10 year plan. So we didn't run away from South Africa. We didn't leave on a bad foot. We didn't burn any bridges. So yeah,
That's really interesting because, and I keep saying that, and you'll probably see that when you talk to people on your podcast as well,
yeah,
is that
yeah,
people, have different circumstances. So
for sure.
what works for you doesn't work for anybody else, and
Yeah,
some people that I've found have had really bad experiences crime-wise and so forth.
exactly.
And for them, they're just blind to anything about South
Yeah, yeah,
Africa, but others go for opportunities. I've had a family that went to Ireland, got their Irish passports. Kids were born there 9 years later. They went back and they live in Welgemoot now and they're totally happy. So,
exactly.
it's what works for you. And I think that's just the right thing to do. I
Yeah.
guess you all still have parents and family, a lot of them in South Africa.
Yes, so both my parents and then my wife's mother is still there, and we both have a sister with families over there as well. Yeah. Yeah.
I think, we'll probably get to that, but that's probably the
Yeah.
most traumatic thing for people is
Exactly.
leaving
Yeah.
parents behind. And it often feels like a very selfish decision to leave.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite tough. Anyway, let's get to, before we move to immigration, let's talk about your podcast,
Yeah.
Karookiwi. Where did the idea for the podcast originate?
So the idea was sort of a aha moment during the past year that I was here in New Zealand. So my wife was kept quite busy with the teaching and the preparation for classes, etc. So I had some spare time in the evenings, but in the back of my mind, I always wanted to sort of do something like this, something similar, maybe on a stage. I always wanted to do something like a podcast or a talk show or just something that you can share knowledge. So first I figured it might be in the line of my profession, as a chartered accountant, so finances and taxes, etc. But it sort of grew to become a community builder as I spoke to more and more people and started focusing also on people that sort of immigrated and living abroad. And at first, obviously, it came from the New Zealand perspective, but I wanted to throw the net wider and make it sort of global as far as I can. As an information provider and a networking tool, maybe. So
Yeah, I mean, I totally relate to that. I think this kind of thing doesn't come natural to us CAs, but
exactly,
you got to put yourself out there.
yeah,
And in terms of your daily business, you're obviously working as a CA in New Zealand. Is the podcast a tool in your business itself?
So I'm not practicing as a CA per se now in New Zealand. I'm more in the business sector and local government at this stage. I would, however, like to actually move into to practice again because I do like the technical and financial and tax side of things. So for the podcast now, and I think that's the main reason why it didn't start off as something in my industry, So it's more with regards to immigration and information and community and networking. Um, yeah, at first.
Okay. I think I saw that you also have some sponsors that transfer funds and that kind of thing. I mean, that's all part of the immigration party
Correct.
journey.
Yes. So
And I mean, you must have had some really interesting guests on this show. Can you share some anecdotes about that?
the guests, yeah, an amazing bunch. It was certainly a wild ride. I enjoyed it so much, and I mean, I've learned all the way through from episode 1 to episode 16. My show is a bit different to yours. I see you just go on and on continually. I sort of took a gap now and stopped at 16 for the first season, and I'll move on to the next season again with another 16 episodes planned. But yeah, so some great ones, and I don't want to put them in any order or leave anyone out. So I'm going to just mention a few of them. One that comes to mind first is John Watson. So John, yeah, he was one of the most calm but profound conversations. So many golden nuggets for my own journey. So he's a sort of a business, also CA, not practicing anymore, moved more into the networking and business coach space. But yeah, I can encourage you to go and have a listen to that podcast. It's going to change your life and the way you think. And then the next one is Justinus Adriaanse. I think you also had him on your show. His passion for South Africa, rugby, and the SA culture, his vision and demeanor, and just the way he looks at life. It was such a brilliant episode, and so nice to have a talk to. And he must have obviously told you about his plans about the rugby and the Rugby World
Big
Cup.
time.
Yeah, he wants to help the Springboks win 5 of the next 10 World Cups. And I told him I'm there. I'm gonna help. So yeah. And then the next one I can remember is Carmen Fourie. So Carmen is the lady that's have a thing called Carmen on a Journey. So there we explored self-care and self-love. That was quite good. And then on the immigration side, Rein Visser and Chantel Jansen van Rensburg were 2 people that I talked to about immigration, and they are in 2 different worlds of in the immigration space, but with one common goal, and that was to help people to get to New Zealand, right? So that was pretty interesting. And then the last one I'm going to mention is Renier Lombard. So you also, I think, had a talk to him and some of his colleagues. Nick Latouf, yeah. So yeah, Renier, the vision he had with the Lekker network and the things that they've achieved thus far. And this coming from a guy that lost his job early in his 20s, and he had to build up his company to where it is today. And I mean, this is also a guy that on a platform like LinkedIn, where you have, let's say, 500 to 1,000 followers, this guy's got 22,000. So he's got a big following and is quite well known in the business space, and he's made a name for himself. So all of them were very special, and we had great moments. And yeah, I shared a video today earlier about some bloopers. As you know, it's not always easy to do this and not to make mistakes. So yeah, that's the sort of the things I wanted to mention.
No, that's
about the first season. Yeah,
excellent. That's very good. I think one of the most interesting guys I've had on was Jacques du Plessis. I don't know. He teaches Afrikaans in America at a university in Wisconsin.
wow.
Just a really, really fascinating guy. Even though he's lived there since '84, he's got a program to teach Afrikaans, and
Can you believe it?
he's incredibly passionate about South Africa and Afrikaans and being an African. He calls himself an African first before he's South African. But really interesting guy. Anyway, well, that sounds amazing. So do you, how difficult do you think it is to set up a business in New Zealand if you arrive without a specific job?
So setting up a business is probably one of the easiest things to do here. It's an easy application, online application, and you sort of get approved immediately. I just think that you need to know your limitations with regards to your visa that will determine what you can do here and for how long you can stay. So that I leave to the immigration specialists to discuss. But the setup of a company and a bank account is 1, 2, 3. It's so easy. So you can get started if you are in the right position. Yeah.
Okay. And comparison between Australia and New Zealand, I've spoken to a lot of people in Australia, but also in New
Yeah.
Zealand. Why would you choose New Zealand over Australia, for instance?
So I think there's a lot of similarities, but to an extent, I think Australia is a bit more tedious in their visa application process. And they operate also, they have I think the 5 provinces or regions. I think it's, I stand corrected. But I mean, each of them operate as a sort of um, a entity at its own. So they make their own decisions, their own rules with regards to visas, etc. So, and New Zealand is New Zealand. You apply for the whole sort of country. You can go anywhere. Um, and from what I've heard, life in Australia is a bit sort of cheaper to live there. So less expensive money wise, and there's a few more opportunities, and I think the economy is a bit better at this stage. So a lot of people actually come to New Zealand, unfortunately get the passport, and then because of their reciprocal agreement, you can then, when you have the black passport from New Zealand, you can jump the bridge between the two countries and you can go to Australia freely without any further
Okay.
applications. So some people use New Zealand as a route to Australia. Yeah,
Okay, that's really interesting.
it is.
So obviously, you call it a soft landing with having family in
Yeah.
New Zealand, but in terms of people that you've met, is it mostly South Africans, or through your sisters you meet a lot of people in Hamilton?
Yeah, so I think when you get to a foreign place and an unknown place, you sort of look for something that is known to you, and that's South Africans. And luckily, it's easy to find them with Facebook these days, and the communities are thriving here. South African communities, so people tend to find each other, and they create opportunities to meet and to braai and to dance. So yeah, I think because the process is so strenuous on your mind and your heart, you try to just look for something that's familiar. Yeah. So
I guess that's an important thing, because also a lot of people have said in my discussions that it's important for husband and wife to be on the same page when they leave,
exactly. Yeah,
and make sure that when one is up, the other one, or that one is down, the other one is up, that you can support each other, because it's not.
for
This is a
sure.
difficult.
Yeah.
And have you guys made friends with New Zealanders, or how difficult is that?
So they are quite open to that. It's just I think we've been here only a year, and last year was quite hectic. So we haven't actually made a lot of Kiwi friends, but I think our focus will be different for the coming year. And we are open to it. So we want to meet the people and get to know the culture. So yeah, that's the plan.
And how do they respond to South Africans? I mean, often you hear in Australia there's some derogatory comments from the locals about the South Africans all hanging together and so on. Is it the same in New Zealand?
Yeah, I think there are more people that just leave you alone, so they won't interfere really. So I haven't had an experience, yeah, with anything like that. So I would say they would rather welcome you, because we've met some great people that's very inviting, and they just, when they socialize, it's different.
Yeah.
They will invite you to a dinner, and they ask you to arrive at 6 p.m. So when you get there at 6 p.m., you eat and then you chat a bit and then you go home. So there's no pre-drinks and no snacks and no chats around the fire. So it's pretty straightforward, but it's a good. And they have this thing that they say, bring a plate. So you have to know what it is to bring a plate, and that's to bring something to eat, not just a plate.
Okay, and
Yeah,
not just a
yeah.
bottle of wine.
Yes, exactly.
That's interesting. And because people have said that in Australia, it's sometimes quite different, because there's no help. People don't invite you to their house. You meet them in a park for a picnic, or you meet them at a restaurant. Or is it similar
Yeah.
in New Zealand?
No, I haven't noticed that. But you do meet a lot of people in these parks because their playgrounds and their parks are amazing. It's so well kept and so many stuff for the children to do. So when the weather is good, everybody is out. Yeah,
And it's safe, obviously. That's a big thing.
exactly. That's the thing. Yeah, yeah,
And I mean, so obviously a thing that's big for South Africans often is the help thing of having somebody helping to clean the house and so on. Have you
yeah.
guys found that that's difficult?
Yeah, that's one of the struggles, definitely. But luckily, me and my wife chose to stay in a very tiny home, so to keep it simple.
Okay.
Yeah,
But it is different.
yeah,
You have to
definitely.
adapt. We were fortunate. We had a period of COVID where we had to do everything ourselves before we left. So by
Okay,
the time we left, we were quite used
used to it.
to doing everything. So it is a bit difficult. Obviously, the family is a big issue, and you still have your parents, and you say your
Yeah.
wife's mother. Do they? How do they feel about you guys leaving?
Yeah, well, so my parents was sort of used to the idea because my sister was away, but not happy. And my mother-in-law, so she only has the two daughters, so it was quite hard. Up to this day, it is. I mean, to say goodbye now last week was quite difficult. Yeah, I don't think it will ever get sort of better. It just becomes more bearable, I think.
And do you have a regular schedule when you talk to them?
No, not really. So even when it's mostly over weekends because of the time difference.
Yeah, the time difference is an issue.
Yeah.
And do you foresee them coming across to visit on your side?
Yes. So my parents have been here quite a few times since my sisters obviously lived here for the past 7 years. My mother-in-law will be coming this year if all goes to plan for the first time. Yeah, because we've only been here a year. Yeah.
And just door to door from where you are to Cape Town, how long does that take?
In South Africa, what do you mean?
No, I mean flight wise. How long a travel is it to get home, or did
Oh,
you?
okay. So actually, the one we took in December took us only 24 hours in
That's not
total.
too bad.
Yeah. And then now when we came back, it was about 33 hours. Yeah.
Wow, that's a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is that's I guess that's part of the downside of New Zealand, that it's
Yeah.
all these time zones and it takes you a while to
Exactly.
get get out of the jet
That's
lag and
why I
so on.
initially said never New Zealand, but now here I am, eh?
Yeah, but at least you're still wearing a Springbok jersey. Hopefully that will
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
change.
That will never change. Yeah.
Have you been to watch rugby there?
Yes, we were lucky to actually go see the first All Blacks game in Auckland last year, the one that we lost.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately we lost, but it was still a good game and a good vibe. Lots of South Africans. Yeah, you can't believe how many there are here and who wants to go and watch the rugby on one single day.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. And just thinking about this last year and the journey that you've been on, is there anything that you would have done differently given where you are now? And it's only a year. I know it's relatively
Yeah.
short time.
I don't think there's anything I would have done differently. I think I would have rather wanted this relocation to happen earlier in my life because we are touching 40, 40, 41. I think we're at a stage where you wanted to be settled, sort of in a place. And I mean, I know it's a decision that we made, but I think if it happened earlier, it would have been a bit easier. But yeah, that goes for that.
Okay. And I mean, a topic that comes up in every conversation is,
Yeah,
what do you take with you when you go? And a lot of people like us made the mistake of shipping a
yeah.
big container with stuff. What did you guys do?
Yeah, so our plan came about that we kept our home in South Africa, but we sort of tried to sell off everything, most of our stuff, and the other half that didn't sell or that we kept went to our holiday home in Stillby. So we only shipped a few boxes over here to New Zealand, so we started sort of fresh. And yeah, we bought some secondhand furniture from marketplace and got a few things from my sister and them, and so yeah, and the community, as I said previously, they're always here to help. So there's a lot of regifting going on for new arrivals.
Because I think a lot of people make the same mistake and they ship stuff too much.
Yeah,
When we shipped a whole 40-foot container and we donated basically everything because
yeah,
the furniture is bigger than the houses and
exactly.
that you have in
Doesn't
South
fit.
Africa. So no, that is always a big thing. And Aubrey, in terms of things that we used to in South Africa, like discovery and medical aid, and
Hmm.
the sort of day-to-day things that you used to.
Yeah.
What is it? What is that like in New Zealand?
So medical, you go to state hospitals here, and then if you want to see a doctor, you have to make a sort of a booking. They have apps for everything, so you make a booking with a GP. But the weird and strange thing is, you might only get a booking at a GP in 2 weeks' time. So it's fairly booked out, and they are all employed by the states. They sort of work 8 to 5. No special treatment sort of for you as a patient. But if you are in danger or it's an emergency, that will always help. So I mean, if you do have an emergency, you can call in and they will push you in the schedule. And then there is some co-payments for the parts that's not subsidized by the state or the government. And then you can also take out further medical insurance to cover those. And if you have any need for specialists, etc. Yeah, so you can top up your cover if your needs are beyond what the government can provide.
Okay, and just in general, cost of living wise, was it a shock? I mean, obviously with your sister,
Yeah,
again, that helps with a soft landing. But
yeah.
uh, was it a shock compared to South Africa?
Definitely, it's more expensive to live here, but your ratio in your salary makes up for that. And what helped for us is my wife's salary went up quite a bit compared to teachers in South Africa. So that gap came closer. Or closed up. But it is a bit more expensive. I mean, in the first few months, you just transfer everything. You times it by 10 just to see what the price in rands is. So you compare it to South Africa the whole time, but you can't do that. You're gonna make yourself crazy. It is expensive, and I mean, New Zealand has been in sort of a recession for the past year or two. So it's tough times out here, and work is scarce. So it was actually not a brilliant time to come here. But I mean, we live on grace and we have faith. Yeah, we've always been looked after. But it is the key factor is it is an expensive country to live in. So you just have to work very well with your money.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. And, I mean, you've only been away a year. Did
Yeah,
you did you notice any change in the sort of cost of living in South Africa, inflation wise?
definitely. No, it was. I mean, I didn't do a lot of shopping, but so we ate at some restaurants and prices went up to what, 20, I would say. I'm just thinking about the spur now, 20% at least. Yeah.
Okay,
So
because
it's
that's
above. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, cannot imagine what it looks like now for me because
Yeah.
5 years ago when I think you
Exactly.
could get a spur burger under $100 and in South
No,
Africa apparently that's not
it's,
on it.
it's more, yeah. I think it's has more than doubled now since you've been there. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
incredible, but I guess that applies everywhere. I mean, even
Yeah.
even where we are with the rand being at 20 to the euro, when you
Yes.
think what you pay for a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
you actually shudder, so you have to stop thinking
Exactly.
in
Yeah.
rands. Otherwise,
Yeah. Yeah.
it just gets very difficult. I mean, just in terms of for you guys in South Africa, obviously as an accountant, did you properly immigrate for tax purposes as well? Do you still maintain both South African and New Zealand links?
Yeah, so New Zealand becomes your primary sort of tax destination, but I do keep up my South African part as well because I have some links there still and do some work there as well.
I guess that not that permanent yet, and as you
No,
said, you've got a longer term plans.
exactly. And I still have the property there that I rent out, so
Okay, okay, yeah. You did say that that the thing that you would have done differently was to come earlier.
yeah.
If you think back, is there anything you would have maybe done differently? What's the biggest lesson other than coming earlier in this journey and the process of applying and getting there? Was there anything you think now you would have done differently?
I think I would have made some contacts way earlier. So started networking and finding out what how things is like here, who to talk to, where to go to. So I think that's also one reason that I started this podcast, Karookiwi, is to be that information guide for people coming this way or to any other country for that matter, is to know what you get yourself into.
I think that's very true. A lot
Yeah.
of times people, it's like the guys with the lacquer network. It's all about who you know. It's
Yes,
not necessarily what you know, and it's being able to be connected to
correct.
the right people. So if a young guy comes to you now, young CA, has just finished his articles and he's faced with a career choice, what would you advise him to do? Go, stay, explore?
If you're young, I would say go. I mean, it doesn't even have to be New Zealand. It can be America or the UK, or because I see a lot of people these days, they make a turn in one of those countries, and then when they come back, they can still work from South Africa in the UK or in America, you know, so and earn in those currencies. But then you have that tax knowledge, which is key because it's different to South Africa. And, yeah, you will be in high demand because you're South African. I mean, yeah, we have a following now. I think South Africa is becoming a brand.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Especially, I think CAs um, are very popular. I
yeah,
know a lot of friends have kids who go to Amsterdam, Ireland.
yes, that's another one. Yeah,
The South Africans are in high demand and they
yes,
generally do well. My sense is that South Africans are driven, and when you employ a South African, you're always going to get good value, 9 out of 10 times,
exactly. Yeah, we just have to
especially
keep that up.
overseas.
Yes, no, that's true.
Yeah. And last question, if you could ship anything from South Africa today, what would it be?
Wow. It would probably be family in a box. Yeah. No, yeah. So yeah, I think the hardest part of being overseas and you don't have all your family sort of there is yeah, it's just that is having that connection with them. I think if you ask 9 out of 10 expats, they will say that's the case, that they miss their families.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's that sense of community and so on.
Yeah.
You mentioned faith. Is it, are you guys linked to a local church or a church with lots of South Africans, or how does that work over in New Zealand?
Yeah, so there's you are spoiled for choice here. So quite a few churches, and there's an Afrikaans one as well. So we do like to go to more of the charismatic churches. So we are linked to one of the ones here in Hamilton. We've done some, as they call it, church hopping at first, just to find our spot and our place. We felt comfortable, and then yeah, so we found that.
That's awesome. I think a lot of, when you go to Europe, like where we are, it's mostly Catholic and it's Portuguese and
Yeah, yeah,
it's very difficult. So you basically have to stick to internet church, So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, that's quite difficult. So one last other question: how often do you braai?
We braai as often as we can. So no, we can't do it every night, but we braai mostly on gas. Not that there's no wood here, so you can braai with wood. But the problem is finding a proper braai drum or a stand or a yeah. So you either have to build yourself a sort of a fire pit or get yourself a half cut steel drum or something. So you can throw some wood in there. Yeah.
But the meat's good. I believe meat in New Zealand's really good.
Yeah, the meat is great. Yeah, and that's one of the things that's pretty comparable in price to South Africa. So
Okay.
yeah,
And do you eat mostly lamb or beef as well?
a beef, lamb, and then of chicken. Chicken is the cheapest here. So we started
Chick-
off with chicken. We now add beef.
But for a South African, chicken's a vegetable.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have chicken with our beef.
No, that's awesome. And just again, come to mind, wine in New Zealand. Are you a wine connoisseur, having grown up and lived in Worcester?
No, not really. That's unfortunately, and I've actually worked for one company for 8 years. So I do drink wine, but it's not something that I love to do really as a norm. I'm more of a beer drinker.
Okay.
Used to be a sort of a craft beer chaser, but yeah, I'm back to the normal Castle Light style, just low carb, crispy lagers. Yeah.
Okay. Is there also quite a craft beer culture in New Zealand?
Yeah, I think the craze is over. So there's some of the big ones that stuck, but there's a lot of, again, spoiled for choice from Australia and New Zealand. So very,
Okay.
very nice beers over here. Yeah.
Okay. And I'll stop now. The coffee culture, is New Zealand a big, do you have a big coffee culture or not really?
Huge coffee culture. Yeah. No, New Zealanders like their coffee, and it's amazing. I don't know what coffee costs in Europe, but here it is roughly between 6 and 8 New Zealand dollars. So that relates to about 60 to 80 rand for a coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably similar here. It depends where you are. I mean, in Portugal, when you go out in the country, you pay 80 euro cents or so for a nice coffee, which would that be 16 rand.
Yeah.
But when you go out in towns and cities, and like we were in Budapest last week, it's crazy. But people have gone mad with coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a coffee bar around every corner and great coffee and so on. So I love coffee. So for me, it's very nice. But
Same, yeah,
awesome.
yeah. No, I do love coffee, and you get every sort of flavor and look and feel, and the roast and toast. So no, it's all good.
Awesome. Gee, thanks for that. That was
man.
such a lekker conversation. So
Yes.
if people can contact you, Karookiwi is on all the platforms?
Yes. So we're on all the known platforms: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, even TikTok. I have a profile there, so it's sort of linked to my personal profile. And then YouTube is the one that we're trying to push. And then we do have a website, so it's just karookiwi.com, and you can send us an email as well to info@karookiwi.com. Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, Aubrey. Really interesting discussion and interesting talking to somebody who hasn't been there for a long time. I think that's a new one. So thank you very much, and really wish you well with your podcast and your business and living in New Zealand. Thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks, Jan. It was a privilege. Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm actually looking forward to our discussion to have you on my podcast. So, yeah.
Awesome. Looking forward. Thank you. If you enjoyed my discussion with Aubrey and would like to hear more and similar stories from South Africans who have immigrated, why not subscribe on your favorite platform? If you would like to share your own story or comment on any of our discussions, please contact me on jan@relocatedSouthAfrican.com. Until next time.